Hey, Sens fans, welcome to season 5, episode 14 of the Centennial podcast. And today we're really excited to welcome on a new guest to the show, and that would be Full Press Hockey's Murray Pam. So, Murray, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be on for my first time.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on, and I think we wanted to jump into getting to know you more as a journalist and your background, and kind of how you got into sports journalism and then covering the Ottawa Senators.
Well, it's kind of a funny story, actually. It was kind of a fluke thing. So what happened was the hockey news had somebody at the games, and their whole sole job was to get their mic flash on the screen on TV for the late night sports. They wanted to get their mic flash, and it was part of an agreement they had, I think maybe with the Senators and with other hockey teams in Canada to get the mic flash on screen. And it's a big bulbous mic flash. So what happened was there was a person doing it at the time, and apparently that person decided they didn't want to do it anymore. so so I got a call from the hockey news asking if I would like to do it, and it was one of those things. They said, "Well, yeah, I know you get to go to the hockey games and this and that." And I was like, it was just for a merch. It was basically a promotion thing for them. I said, "Sure, sure, I'd love to do it. I mean, it's more of a fun thing, right? And you get to see a hockey game and that kind of thing. But then it kind of morphed. So what happened was it literally morphed into a thing. They had something online in the early days of internet, and it was called From the Scrum. So what happened was post games with the scrums. I would literally record the scrums on the old on an old audio on an old recorder, and I'd come home as fast as I can, get home fast as I can, and literally type out, obviously transcribe all the audio
Yeah.
and email it to the hockey news so they can put it on their website. And then they were doing it in all the cities in Canada. So then it kind of morphed obviously into more. And I started doing in the old hockey news, they had the 2 minutes in the box profiles. And I used to do those with the players. And I go around and, ask them, what would they be doing if they weren't playing hockey, or what kind of car, what did you buy with their first contract, where do you go, where like go on vacation, all this kind of stuff, right? So then that kind of morphed again. And well, also it was my idea. They asked me to like brainstorm certain things, and we said, well, let's do something about rookies. So when rookies came, like, could be an Ottawa Center, it could be someone else on another team, but we'd ask for a story from the first game that they played, right? So then that came my little thing on in the Hockey News magazine. Like, I would do it, I would talk to Drew Doughty. I remember discussing with him his first game that he played, and just different players. I remember talking to Alex Radulov and Kyle Turris and just different people, and we just do a little. It wasn't more than it was a little more of a blurb thing, and it was just talking about their first game that they played and their memories from the first game, and then obviously it branched out into actual stories in the magazine. So my first actual story that got published was in their 60th anniversary issue, and it was on Johnny Busick. And Johnny Busick had been with the Boston Bruins, I believe, at that time. I think it was over 50 years anyway at the time that he was with the Boston Bruins, and he's actually still with the Boston Bruins in some capacity, which is
Oh
amazing.
my
Wow.
God.
And so that was my first story, and then again, just then I got into story writing, and I got a couple of my stories were published in their publications, which was really good. So I have a couple short stories in paperback, and one of them was a story. It's in a Hockey News paperback called Blood Feuds, and they asked writers around the league to write a story about a feud or something that happened, obviously, in hockey, whether it's Canada playing Russia or just different things in time or in history. So they wanted me to do something. We decided to do something with Ottawa and the Leafs. So at the time, obviously, I ended up speaking to Daniel Alfredson, and we sat down for, it's good 45 minutes to an hour, and we were just chatting, just a little chatting about hockey, and basically the whole story was kind of how Ottawa just couldn't get by the Leafs in the playoffs, as we all know, and how the Ottawa always had the great seasons, and they just couldn't do it. And for whatever, every we all know what happened, so we don't have to get into that. But then it kind of morphed again. That story was basically was morphed into why Leaf fans hate Daniel Alfredsson. so so it actually that's basically the basis for the story. So it was kind of a funny thing. Obviously, when he broke his stick and he pretended, he went to throw the stick and he didn't, and all
Yeah.
that. We chatted along, we tried quite a while about that, and it was pretty funny. And he actually told me that night that he actually broke three sticks in that game.
Oh
And he
wow.
was so mad on the third stick, they pretended to throw it. Because what happened to Matson with Matt Sundin, just probably a couple of weeks before that, and he
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
threw it thick and it actually landed in the crowd, and he
Yeah.
got suspended, correct?
Yeah, I wanted
Or
to
got
say
fined.
I think he got suspended for it.
Exactly. So there was that. So Daniel was kind of laughing, and he's like, "Yeah, I broke my stick three times, and I just got mad and pretended to chuck it." And then I asked him about Sundin if he thought of any, what Sundin thought about it, and Alverson was kind of smirking because I know he's because we know he said he didn't like it, kind of, and then he just kind of laughed and he goes, "Yeah, we just kind of laugh about it now." But I think Sundin was actually put off by it at the time. It was pretty funny. And then we talked about his hit on Darcy Tucker, and he also said, "Yeah, he goes in hindsight, it probably was a penalty," but he admitted that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
it
in the
probably
He's not the
moment,
one making the call, right?
yeah.
no, exactly. It was if it didn't call it, it's not a penalty, right?
Yeah.
So there was that. So anyway, from the hockey news, I ended up getting a weekly column in the Metro Ottawa. So that was good. We did that for it was probably a couple seasons anyway. And obviously, unfortunately, the Metro went to, get by, unfortunately. And then I got from the Metro, I went to the Sporting News Canada. And that was something the Sporting News, they tried. They wanted you to see if they can get a footing within Canada online. We did that for a couple of years. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. So, and that's when I found my way to Full Press Hockey was just starting out. They've actually, the hockey site has only been going now, I think, 3 years, and it's grown exponentially since I came on. So we're doing really well now. We have a handful of people accredited in the NHL through NHL teams, and right now, I don't know if you follow it, but we do a lot of AHL too, which is really good, and I think we're accredited in probably 5, 6 teams in the AHL at least or more. So we do very well in that. So, but they also websites just called Full Press Coverage, and they're heavily into, and they have a lot of NFL. They're credentialed in the NFL, and one of their big ones is actually wrestling. So.
Oh
They
yeah.
actually attend WWE and AEW events and do
Amazing.
reporting on them. They do interviews, and they also have all kinds of podcasts as well on their website. So it's doing well. I mean, it's still growing, so there's still room to grow. So right now we're all doing, we're having fun, and I don't know how many there are actually on the hockey side. There's probably upwards of probably a dozen of us writing. So so like I said, we're still growing, and but it's a fun and it's a good group. So we're fortunate, and we've got a little bit of a footing there, and I know that we have some good followers and they appreciate our work. So that's where we're at right now.
That's awesome. I'm really glad to see that good reporting is and the Ottawa Senators are kind of finding their way back to each other. Um, so obviously you've spent a lot of time around the Senators organization over the years, and whether it be the players, the staff, or the management, does this team have a new feeling with this new ownership group at the helm?
I think so. You could see the attitude change, right? I was obviously at the first event at the golf event in September, and you could see it then. And it's just, I know I was gonna say everyone had to jump in their step. It was just golf, but but you could see everyone was, and Michael Andlauer was there, and it was just one of those things. You could see they were. It was a different mindset, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun. And obviously, I was at that first press conference with Michael Andlauer, and you could see there was a bit of a change, and you could see by the people that were there, and just on the whole, you could see it was just a different vibe, and it was a welcoming vibe. The Andlauers have this. I met Mrs. Andlauer, and his and his children, and it was like a welcoming vibe. It was like they wanted to get to know you, and something you guys probably don't know. And what happened was, also while we were there at the introduction of Michael Andlauer, he wanted to meet us and talk to us and get to know us a little bit as well. So we actually got to sit down. I can't discuss what we said, but because that was we're all sworn to secrecy on that. But we got to sit down in the Legacy restaurant, and probably for about 15-20 minutes, probably about 15-20, and just to chat about anything. We got to ask him different questions, um, and he just wanted to meet us and just do a back and forth, and that was is something that obviously we weren't expecting, and it was something that it builds a bond between you and the new ownership and management, that kind of thing. So, and they're very welcoming. So he even said, like, if you meet him in the hallways or you want to talk to him, call me Michael, and that kind of thing. So it's just a different vibe, and it's all positivity, and that's what obviously he uses the best in class term, but that's what he wants, and that's how he actually, from what I'm gathering, that's how he also treats his employees. So it's 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 the new attitude, and you could see, again, I don't repeating myself, but how welcoming they are, and it's just you can see the change in the building.
And do you think that, with that attitude, that is going to kind of transfer to those new people coming in the front office? Obviously, Dave Poulin recently added, but aside from that, adding to the front office, adding to the training staff, and that kind of thing. Do you kind of see like Michael Andlauer is trying to build upon that positivity and maybe, I'm not trying to say clear out individuals associated with the previous ownership group, but maybe try to change the culture, not just on the ice with the players, but also kind of try to push that into the management sphere as well?
Oh yeah, you can see that. I mean, there's a lot of the staff that are actually still there, and so yeah, most of the staff, the entertainment staff, the PR staff, um, all the people around the building, security, it's all the same people. So it's just that he preaches the positivity. So it spreads, even the individuals, even though they're working, under Eugene Melnick, these people under Michael Andlauer may have a different, gives you a different personality, or just given, you know what I'm saying? It's just they take on his presence. So because his presence, he wants everyone, to you know smile, put on a happy face, or just be outgoing with everybody. And I think that's translated to the existing staff, and obviously the people he's bringing in. They're all outgoing. They're all similar people, and they're open, and they're open to you're opening to take your questions or just discuss things, that kind of thing. So it's good. When you go to the Canadian Tire Center, um, it's a good experience for everybody, including the media right now.
That's good to hear. Now I'm kind of want to pivot off of talking about the organization from an off ice perspective and look at the on ice product. And the trade deadline, it's fast approaching. The days are flying by. We've already seen a couple of first round picks be exchanged in the Lindholm deal between Calgary and Vancouver, and of course the Monahan deal that came shortly thereafter between Winnipeg and Montreal. And do you know, I kind of want to get your opinion on I think we know who the likely candidates are, but who you think the Sens would move at the trade deadline, and whether you think it's possible for them to manage to get a first round pick of their own to add to the two they already have for this year's draft.
Well, it depends on obviously on who you deal. Obviously, you're looking at the first thing you're going to look at is your UFAs, right? Your pending UFAs. So right now, your pending UFAs are Dominik Kubalik, Vladimir Tarasenko, and I think I'm trying to think now if there's anyone else off the top of my head. I don't believe UFAs. There's RFAs, but there's no UFAs.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as looking at Dominik Kubalik, you're if you are to move him, I think they're probably trying to move him. Obviously, at this point, there's he probably won't be back next season. I wouldn't think at this point, and I don't think Kubalik unfortunately will draw that high end pick. Obviously, with his play to date so far, and we're looking at probably a late, probably you're going to see probably one of those fourth round picks or maybe something to help out, your AHL team, depending, where they are. You might want to, or get a flyer on on a fourth line player or someone like an AHL player you're looking maybe to sign next season. Or again, so you're looking at one of a fringe player or a pick, obviously, a later pick. For Vladimir Tarasenko, that's a really good question right now on him because we don't know where he stands. Does he even want to leave? He holds the cards, right?
Yeah.
So he holds the cards from everyone around, and I've spoken to him. Obviously, we haven't spoken to him about being, what if we traded, that kind of thing. Would you want to go to a playoff contender, that sort of thing? But he's very positive. We didn't obviously we heard stories, that kind of thing, but we don't know. We aren't privy to what really happened in St. Louis or his attitude there, whatnot. He has a Stanley Cup ring, and everything we've seen of him here is all positive.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very team player, and he's very profound. He's in the post games, he's been saying some great things, and he understands Jacques Martin's system, and he's basically saying this is boring hockey, but hey, got to do it. It's winning hockey. And he actually, obviously he's talked about this, that, if everybody buys in, they're going to, she said it's not the most exciting hockey in the world, but it's winning hockey. And he understands that. And, he's very positive. And again, like I said, he holds the cards, but if he is to be traded, I would think you might be able to get something, definitely a second round pick, if not a first for him. And obviously, but the thing is right now it's cap space on other teams. He makes $5 million, right? If he's going to go to a playoff team, they probably won't have that cap space. So the chances are you are going to get a first or second round pick for him because you're going to eat some salary.
Yeah.
So based on eating salary, you're going to get, I would think, a first or a second for him. So again, or they also want to look for that one player, right? Steve Sails and Dave Poulin have been saying all along they want this veteran type guy, who another leader in the room or two leaders in the room. They've been mentioning that, right? So I don't know if you could get a player of that ilk for Tarasenko because a playoff team may not want to move that type of player right now, obviously. But again, he holds all the cards. But I think if he is to be dealt and he agrees to be dealt, it wouldn't shock me. A second round pick for sure, I would think. And it wouldn't shock if it's a first round pick, especially if they can eat it like a couple $1 million or something like that. So there's that. And as far as obviously, there's a lot of chatter around Jakob Chychrun. We've all heard it. Jacob obviously wants to be here, but everyone has to recognize he was much sought after. Obviously, we heard Jakob Chychrun for what 2 years now, 2 years in a row, and all of a sudden he's here, and it's like, oh wait, he might be out the door again. So it's unfortunate. And if you have to look at the status of all the contracts right on the back end, so you have Thomas Chabot, it's all on the left side, right? So you have Sanderson, Chabot, and Chychrun. Chychrun can play the right. We already seen Chabot play the right. Unfortunately, he's not as good a player on the right, obviously, and it's been proven now, so that he's going to have to stay on the left. Sanderson can play the right on occasion. He did that before, but you really need someone. They don't want to shuttle back and forth, so they want somebody who can be there permanently, right? So because of that, and Chychrun's contract, he's a bargain right now at $4.5 million, and he's a bargain for any team because he makes that $4.5 million next year, right? So he's a bargain for anybody, and unfortunately, if you look at it, Thomas Chabot is heading into a 10-team no trade starting next season, I think, for the balance of his contract. And I believe for the next 2-3 seasons, he's going to be earning $10 million in actual salary. So $8 million on the cap and $10 million in real money. It's going to be, a team will be hard pressed to pay $10 million a year, right? I would think. So the natural person to be dealt would be Jakob Chychrun, unfortunately. Now, is it going to happen? Obviously, we don't know. What would the return be? Would that be in season? Would it be at the draft? Would it happen at all? So there's, like, you know what I'm saying? We don't know. So, but if Chychrun is dealt at some point, you can see something similar for what they received and, you know, what they gave up in the first place, right? You're gonna get a first round pick or a second round pick. And right now, again, like I said, Dave Poulin and Steve Staios are looking for that veteran player or leader. Maybe they get that player in a pick, which would be more. I think that's because I think if anyone's going to be your bargaining chip, that's your chip. You're going to have to play. If something like that occurs, you can look at players on other teams. I'm looking at the player. I think the Senators had interest in under Pierre Dorion, a player maybe such as, obviously I'm not floating anything out there, but a player such as Travis Konecny, let's say. He's got 2 years left. He's been in the league a few years now. He was a point a game player last year. He played only 60 games, but he got 31 goals, 30 assists. This year he's already up to 20 plus goals in 50 games. He's consistent in what he does. He's a great player, and he can play any forward position. So you're looking at a player such as that, I think, if you're looking for a trade and something like that. But again, is that something in season? Is it, you know, in the summer? We don't know, right? And I don't know really other bold moves. I don't see any bold moves. I mean, at the deadline, you're looking at, if you want to open spots for like a Tyler Kleven or Max Gannett, let's say, then you're looking at moving a Brandstrom, right? And again, what's going to happen with Travis Hamonic? Travis Hamonic signed for one more season again. He's got no move clause. So the only choice is, you keep him around, do you waive him, do you buy him out? Because with what's coming in next season, you probably don't have a spot for him, unfortunately. And you know what thing about Travis Hamonic? He's a great guy. It's a person you'd want around the room, around the team. There could be a future there as well for him. Let's say in a coaching development position, something like that. That's something who knows if he would be interested in something like that in the future. But he's a good guy to have around the room, and you know what I'm saying. He's somebody like that you want to keep around. You may not be able to have him playing on your roster with the makeup of your defense next season, or even later in the season, for that matter. But he's a guy you want in your organization somehow. You want to make him fit somehow.
Now, there's two other players that are complete opposites that the Sens have been allegedly interested in. I think one is more confirmed than the other, and that would be Chris Tanev, who is a pending UFA, 34 years old, right-hand defenseman, really good defensively, but obviously some questions around his age and what a contract extension would look like, plus Ottawa bidding against some contending teams who'd likely like to add a guy like Tanev for a deep playoff run. The other one that was interesting that kind of surfaced and don't know how much merit there is to it, but is a younger guy, Arthur Kaliev, for the Kings. And goal scorer, not as much of a defensive guy, but very similar to Tarasenko in that, you know, he, with playing time increases, he can, you know, put up some more points and has a lot of growth offensively. So, you know, are either of those two guys players who you think that the Sens should really pursue, or what are your thoughts on either of those guys?
Yeah, and there was another. I don't know where this came from the other day. There was a rumor about Jonathan Bergen from Detroit also came out as well. Um, he's probably, I wouldn't say similar to Kalev in a way, but I think he's only played 9 games this season, but I think last season he played 50, 60 games and I think he had about 30 points or so, 14, 15 goals. There's another guy like that who's just hasn't found his way yet, but he's on on the cusp of making it full time. As for Chris Tanev, we'll start there. Um, as far as Tanev's concerned, it's kind of a strange situation. I mean, Elliot Friedman, there's others out there tying Tanev to Ottawa. But if you're Chris Tanev and you're 34 years old, I would think I want to play for a contender. I don't know where where the thought process is that you want to be, Ottawa obviously wants to get in the playoffs. Everybody knows that they're expected to be in the playoffs this year. But does he want to go to a team that is trying to get into the playoffs? Or does he want to be on a team that knows they're established, that they're already a playoff team, year after year? So that's something that Tanev himself would have to decide. If he wants to be with the promising upcoming team at 34 years old, or does he just want to have a cup run and hopefully, sign with a team that's going to be vying for the cup? So there's those options. So I don't see Tanev being here at really when deep down. I mean, if I'm that guy and I'm 34 years old, I probably, want to, be on a playoff team, a perennial playoff team. You know what I'm saying? Not a team that's just striving to make the playoffs.
Right.
As far as Kalev goes, I mean, Kalev's one of those players. There's players out there like that who you want to maybe you can roll the dice on. I don't know the status of his contract right now, but I'm assuming he's probably RFA or that kind of,
Yeah.
I don't computer, I'm not going to type it out quickly, but he has potential. I think he's going to be one of those guys that has to play. I don't know if he has to be a top six, but definitely on a third line. And he's not going to be a guy who's going to, he has to be on a third line. He needs to be on your power play to be effective, I think. So I think he's one of those guys you could take. You might be able to have to trade a prospect or some kind of small package with maybe trading one of your fourth line guys and then putting together like a third round pick, something like that, right? Try and pick him up and give him a flyer and see if it works out. Obviously, he has ties to Steve Staios, right, and Michael Landauer with the Bulldogs, so they're familiar with him, so he's familiar with them. So there could be a fit there, I would think in some way, and obviously the familiarity might bring out the best in him as well. And because obviously, from what I've heard, and I've talked to a couple of players who played on the Hamilton Bulldogs, and they just think so much of Steve Staios and Michael Landauer. I mean, I've had a couple of long talks with Jordan Donovan, and as well, I spoke to Roddy Stillman as well before the season when Michael Landauer first purchased the team, and he was with I think he was with Buffalo at the time, and he was just thrilled that he was going to be the Senators owner, and he thought so much of him. He said that he had only played there. Someone said he was traded to the Bulldogs, obviously at the OHL trade deadline, and they went to the Memorial Cup, and he goes, I was only there like 25 games, and how I was treated and how he treated my family was just tremendous. So, and he says he'll forever be indebted to him for actually making the deal for him and giving him that cup run. So that's good as well. So
Wow. That's high praise.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Oh, I love hearing good stories about Michael Landauer and all this. Murray, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure hearing great stories, as I said. Where can we find your stuff? Are you working on anything special?
I have a little Shane Pinto piece that came out today. I usually try to get a couple pieces out each week at fullpresshockey.com. And our website, our Twitter account is Full Press NHL. And obviously my Twitter account is at Palmer Hockey. and that's where I can be found. And I'm usually wandering around the Canadian Tire Center on game nights. If anybody wants to say hi, I'm there, and go up to me and say hi. We can chat a little hockey, and yeah,
Awesome.
and that's it.
Cool.
Amazing.
Well, for those watching or listening, we'll make sure to plug Murray's stuff in the description to check that out. Murray, like Matt said,
Matthew.
yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for joining us again. It's been a really interesting and insightful discussion with you, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So hopefully we'll have you back on again sometime.
Oh, for sure. Maybe around the trade deadline or a little,
When
maybe
it
a little
gets
Sounds
spicy.
good.
see how it goes.
All right. Well, have a
Okay.
great night, and
You
yeah,
too.
we'll chat with you again soon.
Okay, take care.
Thanks,
too.
Murray.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.